crowd stepped back and quieted down a little after the constable threatened to call in backup and arrest everyone for disorderly conduct. This is actually hilarious in a country where the police are corrupt and the law doesn't mean anything. Even so, the crowd milled quietly on the street outside my house. Upstairs, the sergeant looked around my living room and saw the paintings on the walls, the sculptures on the tables, and the work in progress in my corner art studio and the books I've written on the bookshelf. Sergeant says, "So, you're an artist?" I affirmed that yes, I am indeed an artist. Sergeant, where are the voodoo dolls they told me about? They were hanging right behind him. I pointed them out, and then we both walked over to the art display, in full sight of all the neighbors who looked up and saw us. I explained who each figure was and pointed out each neighbor that was represented. The fisherman, the builder, the laundry lady, the dealer with her bright hair. The sergeant examined each figurine quietly for a few minutes, while individuals in the crowd downstairs yelled, "That's me!" when he touched each one. There was a buzz of excited gossip from the angry crowd on the street as he looked at each figurine. He nodded, acknowledging that each neighbor did in fact recognize themselves in the statuettes. The sergeant, "These are pretty good." Luckily for him, I had just made coffee, so I offered him a cup and he accepted. We went over to the kitchen and sat down to talk. He asked me what was really going on. I recounted the past 15 years of harassment and xenophobia that I had not reacted to previously and told him the most recent story about the destruction of my garden. I said I'd finally felt the need to express my rage in a creative way, rather than in the destructive ways my neighbors like to inflict on me. I explained that as an artist, I could best express myself in art form. As a formality, he asked to see my ID, just to ascertain that deportation was not on the table. I showed him my ID card, proof that I am in fact a legal resident of this country. He nodded again. Sergeant says, "You know you scared them, don't you?" Me, "No more than they've ever scared me with their machetes and violence." I also told them that they had accused me of being a witch and flying around at night, stealing children to eat. He thought that was funny, and we both laughed. Me, "I mean, how many children have been reported missing?" He chuckled again. He assured me he was going to sort this out once and for all. Before he went downstairs, he gave me his personal phone number and told me to call him if there was ever any trouble in the hood. I thanked him and he left. Downstairs, he opened the gate and faced the crowd in the street. Their low rumble of gossip grew louder and he ordered them to be silent. By this time, another squad car had quietly shown up and there were now 4 policemen doing crowd control on the street. The police stood as if guarding my house with their guns and batons. Sergeant said to the crowd, "Art is not illegal." His voice boomed loudly for those in the back. "But destroying your neighbor's property is. In fact, is a serious crime and she had the right to have you all charged and arrested for the damage you have done. She did not do that. Instead, she made art. So let me tell all of you just this one time. If any of you touch a hair on this woman's head, a brick on her fence, a blade of grass in her garden, she's going to call me and I'm gonna haul your sad sorry butts to jail. Is that clear?" Let me tell you folks, the crowd's flabbers were gasted. They tried to be outraged, but the sergeant told them they were crazy and stupid and that they needed to be better neighbors. The police then wasted no time in sending them all home with a warning to mind their own business and leave me alone. So petty potatoes, I finally got my wish. It's the only thing I've ever wanted for the last 15 years, to be left in peace. So some people in the comments are suggesting she get a dog. I wouldn't mind that. Obviously, the neighbors weren't happy with the outcome after they tried to have me arrested and deported, and ended up being berated and warned by the police sergeant. There were grumblings in the hood for a few days, and they sent a mediator, 57 female, to come and talk to me about removing the display. I've known this guy, let's call him George, for years, and he's someone I love and respect. He also knows about all the trouble these neighbors have caused over the years. We sat and had coffee and banana bread and shared a blunt. We laughed and talked for a couple of hours. From the corner of my eye, I could see on the street every time one of the neighbors casually walked past, hoping to hear something of our conversation. In the end, I told George I would not be removing the display. Good. Because on the one hand, who walks into an art gallery and demands they take down paintings? And on the other hand, they needed to fully comprehend that I mean business, and that messing with me from this point is not an option. He completely understood. However, I did make the neighbors an offer. Each of them could buy their own figurine for the hefty price of $15 USD, basically the cost of materials, and thereby compensate me in part for some of the damage they have caused over the years.